Hey guys, after the show ends, hold on for a few seconds because there's actually two endings. Sorry. Welcome to the FightWrite podcast. I am your host, Carla Hoke, and y'all, I am sick. I sound like I'm underwater, but you know what? The show must go on. I really want to do this show. I've got to do more shows. So let's just say that I am underwater. This episode comes to you live from underwater. And from the letters S-T-R-E-N-P, that's what I'm getting over is strep. Ugh, I don't mean to brag, but I look like death. Oh, and speaking of death, check out the episode of the podcast on the stages of death. I also discuss the stages of decomposition and death in my book, FightWrite, How to Write Believable Fight Scenes, out with Writer's Digest. And on my blog, FightWrite, FightWrite.net. By the way, FightWrite is a registered trademark. Okay. Forgive me in advance for my coughing, and at the end of this episode, I suggest you wash your hands. Today, we are in part 2 of a 2-part series. In our last episode, I answered listener Tony Torzillo's question from the Twitter. Tony asked about the thoughts and feelings that go on in a fighter's mind as they fight. I also talked about the effects of adrenaline because you can't talk about one without the other. I need to breathe. Hold on. I'm going to have to come up for air every now and then. Adrenaline is grossly underconsidered. Is that a word? Is underconsidered? I don't know. It's hard to think underwater. I can't open my dictionary down here. If your fight scene is in first person, you need to go to the section of my book that talks about adrenaline and use it as your guide. I'm adjusting my mic. Sorry if it messes up. As far as emotions, adrenaline dulls them, honestly, to varying degrees. Some people may be completely stoic. Some may have more of a response, but it's not going to be as it would the emotions aren't going to be as they would under normal circumstances. And there's a reason for that. Emotions get in the way of fighting. They make you think of all the implications of your actions. And when you are fighting for your life, you don't need to be thinking about how hurting or killing your assailant will affect their mom. You don't need to be thinking how it'll affect your mom. When fighters are matched up in a UFC fight and they absolutely hate each other, I know that's good for ratings, but it's terrible for fighting. When they walk into that ring, they need to put all that hate, not necessarily put it aside, it just needs to be compartmentalized in a different way. I'll try to get back to that, I think. Let me write that down. Okay. That said, the things normally you would have emotions about, they're great motivators. Okay, that's where the hate comes in. Let the emotions be motivators. I know fighters who purposely think of their family before they fight because when they think of their family, it raises the stakes. And if you have my book or have taken my classes, you know that raising the stakes raises the intensity of the fight. And so that's what you want to use. Your character is going to want to use those emotions for, to raise the stakes and raise the intensity. Okay, what do I mean by raise the intensity? And, for people who have never been in a combat sport, some people don't understand what I mean by raise the intensity, so let me give for instance. Underwater, hold on. Okay, when I am sparring in jiu-jitsu and I put somebody in a choke hold, and if it doesn't work after about 5 seconds or so, I tend to let it go and just move on to something else, which I get fussed at, quite honestly, because I'm supposed to hold on to it longer. But my intensity isn't super high. It's just high enough to serve the purpose of sparring. And generally, the purpose of sparring for me is to learn, for anybody, the purpose of sparring is to learn to think under adrenaline, to, let your muscles react, and to build your cardio. Now, if I'm competing for a competition, I might hold the choke a little longer, but regular everyday sparring, I just let it go and go to something else. What's the point? It's sparring. No winner or loser. It's just sparring. In a competition, the intensity is going to be a little bit higher. If I can't get the choke, I'm going to hold on to it and listen to my coach and adjust until my coach tells me to let it go, or if the ref stops us for stalling. But as long as my coach says hold it, I will hold it. I will hold it the whole round if he tells me to hold it the whole round. The stakes are a little bit different there. In class, the stakes are not, there's not really any stakes except me improving my own cardio, me becoming a better fighter. When I'm in a competition, I'm not just fighting for me, I'm fighting for my fight family. If I'm attacked on the street and and I'm choking someone and it's not working, I'm going to bite their ear off. Yeah, that's gross, but hear me out on this one. Oh, hear me out on biting somebody's ear. Pun unexpected, unintended, yet appreciated. Let me get some water. Okay, if I am choking someone on the street, that is considered, under the law, deadly force. And unless I am fearing for my life, deadly force is against the law. So if I have somebody in a chokehold, that is because they were trying to kill me. The stakes are as high as they can be. My intensity will be at a maximum. Nothing will be off limits. I'm going to do whatever it takes to stay alive because nobody is going to take me from my family. And that thought will go through my mind. The emotions tied to that thought are going to be very flat and very matter of fact, if you can even consider that an emotion. And I know that from experience, too. Let me write that down. Okay, I'll get back to that, too. Now, why would I bite their ear? Not just because it's mean and nasty. That's not there. I'm not going to risk getting any type of disease by exposing myself to someone's bodily fluids unless it has a purpose. And in this situation, biting somebody's ear, I would do because I know the physical response of that is to lean the head to the side to try and protect the ear. I mean, imagine if you feel terrible pain in your ear, you're going to shrug and take your head back, or you're going to take your head to the side. And in all those instances, you're opening up another portion of the neck. You're not pulling it down in between your clavicles like a turtle. The neck is opened up. That's going to help me adjust my hold on the choke, because that's what I was needing the whole time is for the person to adjust their head so I can maybe adjust my arm to get the choke in a little bit better. The natural physical responses of the body should be what drives the blocking of your fight scene. I should probably do an episode on that. For now, just think, okay, if what my character's doing, if that happened to me, how would I physically react to it? You don't have to be a fighter to say if I got punched in the gut, I would bend forward. That's a natural physical response. Okay, you can see how the actions change based on the stakes. So up stakes and the intensity goes with it. And there's just no room for emotions when your life is on the line. Is my adrenaline different in those three scenarios? The level of it, yeah. The brain gets what it asks for. What it asks for in class is different for what it asks for, if I'm being attacked on the street. It's like pushing a gas pedal. But that's because I'm used to it in class. When you first start sparring in class, your adrenaline is kind of high. That's why the most dangerous person on the mat is quite often the white belt, because they spaz out. They're just panicked with adrenaline. And you learn to control that. Okay, the flat emotions. Yes, I unfortunately have personal actual examples of flat emotions in dire situations. I was in a car accident with my best friend in high school. The car flipped. She wasn't wearing a seatbelt. And the best we could determine, she went out the windshield, hit the front hood, then came back into the car. There was evidence of her in the back seat and on the hood. And I mean, I physically saw on the hood some of her blood and her hair stuck in it. So we know she went out of the car at some point and hit the hood. She didn't have a seatbelt on. I don't know if I said that. Needless to say, going out of the windshield didn't cut her as badly as coming back in. Now, I gave her a concussion, but coming back in cut her up pretty badly. When the car came to rest on its side, I was in the passenger seat and I was in the top, hanging down in my seatbelt. I looked around and I did feel a sense of urgency. And by the way, things did go in slow motion. And weirdly, I have two different memories I'm getting upset. I have two different memories of what I did. One of my memories is I reached out for the steering wheel to turn it because we ran a red light. We were in a little Ford Escort. I don't even know if Ford makes Escorts anymore. And we were hit by an LTD. If you don't know what an LTD is, it's a big honking car that I don't even know if they make anymore. Think of like old police cars, big cars. And we ran the red light, and I was kind of laying back in the seat. I had the seat reclined a little bit, and I looked up and I said, the light's red. And it wasn't a scream. It was just, the light's red. And I looked out my window and saw the LTD coming at us. And I remember doing two things. I remember reaching for the steering wheel to try to turn it because I knew that if we turned the car in the direction of the impact, it would not be as bad. I also remember putting my arm up by the side of my face and relaxing as much as I could in the seat. I did have the wherewithal about me in both of those instances to do something that would lessen my injury. So the car rolled, and when it came to a stop, I was kind of hanging down. And I did start, once everything just kind of went dead calm and quiet, I started yelling, and I don't think I was yelling words. It was more a sense of urgency. It was more of a, oh no, this is not good, I need help, more than Lord Jesus, come save me now. Again, I don't think it was words, and it was not from pain. I had zero pain. I just do remember I wanted help. I remember my stomach feeling like I wanted to cry. You know that gut feeling you get when you're upset, when there's kind of a wrinkle, kind of a, the gut feeling, what I'm talking about. If I'd had a lot of food in my stomach, I might have even thrown up. I don't know. Anyway, I do remember feeling the overwhelming urge in my stomach to cry. I looked down at my best friend. She was resting up near the top of the door, and the windshield, the glass from the windshield, I don't know how else to say it, but it laid her neck open. You could see all the vascular structures. And I reached out to try and feel a pulse, which if I had had emotions in that moment, I wouldn't have done that. I was very robotic, and I remember thinking, I need to see if she has a pulse. And so I reached down to get a pulse, and I looked at, I think it was her jugular. I'm not sure. I mean, it was a vein that looked as big as my pinky, I would say, and it did not have a pulse. It wasn't moving. Now, it probably was, but in that moment, I didn't see it. And I do remember her looking at me and then passing out, and so I thought at that moment she was no more. And my thought was, I'm in the car with a dead girl, which is awful. And it makes me sound like a serial killer. It makes me sound like a terrible person. But it was just very robotic. And then I thought, I need to get out of this car. And by that time, people were reaching in to try to pull me out. And if I had undone my seatbelt, I would have fallen down on her. And didn't want to add insult to injury. And so I said, I will fall. And they said, put your foot on the steering wheel to kind of boost yourself to keep me from falling. And I said, I can't, my legs are broken. I kid you not. I looked down at my legs, and the way they were positioned, I thought, okay, my legs are broken. Now, they weren't broken, by the way. And my friend was fine. Lots and lots of stitches. Good to go. Listen, California has a beautiful family. But in the midst of that turmoil, emotionally, I felt like a robot, and that was for the best because I made good decisions in that moment. If I had not put my hand up by the side, if I hadn't guarded the side of my face, now that I did do. I don't know if I actually did reach for the steering wheel, but I know for a fact I covered the side of my head because otherwise the glass from the explosion from when the car hit would have just torn my face to shreds, and that never happened. So I know for a fact I had my arm up. And in a situation when someone was trying to hit me, I defended myself, and my thoughts were, oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. But emotionally, I was robotic. Well, I'm just telling y'all all my business today. Emotionally, there was just nothing there. Now, is this the case with everyone? I cannot say that for sure. But if your character has lots of emotion under the influence of adrenaline, it's not the norm. And it would not be in keeping with normal biology. Now, when the adrenaline ebbs, that's a whole different story. You got all kinds of emotions then, and I don't care who you are, how tough you are, it changes everything. By the way, that sick feeling I had in my stomach, some people, when adrenaline surges, they do vomit. Tito Ortiz, UFC fighter, I saw him in an interview, and he said before every fight, he does two things. This is in my book. I have the reference in my book. I can't think of where it is right now. He does two things. He cries and he throws up. That's what adrenaline does to him. As far as crying, is he crying from emotion? No, but you do have, like, I had that feeling of wanting to cry, but it wasn't an emotional attachment to crying. It was just the feeling was present. And I did feel sick to my stomach. All right. I guess I think I answered everything. I think. I need to do, my next episode probably should be on when adrenaline dumps and it ebbs. All the wonderful, wonderful gifts that come when that happens. Although I think my next episode is going to be whether or not you can carry a sword on your back. And I am talking to a weapons master about it. I will keep my opinion to myself. And you can hear the weapons master tell me. And you know what? I don't think I'm going to ask him ahead of time what he thinks of it. He's a good friend of mine, and I think I know his answer, but I'm not gonna ask him. I want it to be a surprise, although I don't think it will be. Thank you so much, Tony, for your question. Guys, send me your questions on the Twitter. I love them. And that is it for the underwater episode of the Fight Right podcast. Check out my blog at fightwrite.net, FightWrite. Big changes are coming to that blog soon, so keep an eye out. And buy my book, Fight Right, How to Write Believable Fight Scenes from Writer's Digest, which as of this broadcast is on Amazon's bestseller list for mystery writing reference. Ta-da! Okay, guys, get back to writing. And until the next round, hopefully the above water version of the Fight Right podcast, get blood on your pages. Oh, and wash your hands. Bye. Hey guys, this is ending number 2. You can find me on Twitter at Carla Hoch, CarlaHoch, hashtag FightWrite, FightWrite, Fight Right podcast, Fight Right book. Those are all the fighty righty hashtags, I believe. Also, if it's all going down on the street and you can't sink in that choke, I'm not saying biting somebody on the ear is the best course of action. There are other ways to get them to move their head back. I promise. I'm just saying that's probably what I would do, given their circumstances right now, feeling like I do right now. I'm just saying. I'm not saying it's the best thing to do. I'm just saying that's what I would do. And it was my understanding that this was not a place of judgment. So before you start Twitterifying me, tweeting right and left about all the different ways I could get them to move their head in order to sink in that choke, I promise you, I do know. And I probably shouldn't bite them, but they started it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay, guys, until the next round at Fight Right podcast, oh, mercy, get blood on your pages and wash your hands and don't bite people's ears unless they ask for it. That's all. Bye.